I tried to identify a pivotal moment of his upbringing. Well, hi there, boys and girls. It's time for a brief history of the United States of America. Now, once upon a time, there were these white people in Europe called pilgrims, and they were afraid of being persecuted. So they sailed across the sea to the New World where they wouldn't have to be scared ever again. But as soon as they got there, they were greeted by savages. And they got scared all over again. Well, my first semester of teaching, I learned all the warning signs, and man, was I on the lookout. Well, the odds of having a kid who are going to shoot up the school are a drop in the ocean, but if you can spot trouble before it happens and intervene, well, you can save lives. So they killed them all. Now, you would think that wiping out an entire race of people would have calmed them down, but no. They started getting scared of each other. Dylan was in the gifted program and played Little League Baseball. I will never know why. When Nadal Hassan and Sung Hui Chu opened fire on Fort Hood and Virginia Tech, the media was taking Muslim and Asian Americans to task, questioning every aspect of their identity. If women had a pattern of walking into public places and killing everybody possible, you can guarantee the headlines would read, "What's wrong with American women?" With mass shootings captivating the nation, it seems someone should ask the question, what's wrong with white men in the United States? In the days following the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, there was great, though insubstantial, debates over gun law reform, the relationship between pop culture and mass violence, and questions surrounding the state of mental health care. However, there was almost no public discourse over the socio-cultural factors that may have influenced Adam Lanza. Professor David Leonard from Washington State University observed, the majority of mass killers in the United States share a similar profile. Male, upper middle class, white. He argues that by ignoring the cultural factors that accompany such atrocities, we inhibit our ability to understand them. In 10 minutes, I cannot explain to you why Adam Lanza did what he did, or how a boy who grew up down the street from my house became Jeffrey Dahmer. But the power of privilege cannot be ignored. Through the prose, The Aurora Shootings, What's Wrong with White Men by Jamie Utt, I Will Never Know Why, an interview with Susan Klebold, The Onion article, Nation Celebrates Full Week Without Deadly Mass Shooting, and The Unbearable Invisibility of White Masculinity by David Leonard, the drama Gunplay by Frank Higgins, Bowling for Columbine by Michael Moore, and the poetry Static and Mrs. Dahmer by Sierra DeMulder. A program exploring the intersection between white male privilege and mass violence. See, boys and girls, the white people back then were afraid of doing any work. So they went to Africa, kidnapped thousands of black people, and brought them back to America to do very hard work for no money. Well, you can just about guess what happened next. The slaves started revolting and chopping all the old masters' heads off, and all the white people started freaking out and going, "Don't kill the big black man! I want to live!" Well, just in the nick of time came Samuel L. Colt, who invented the first weapon that could be fired over and over again without having to reload. And all the Southern whites were like, "Yeehaw!" Cheers filled the street and American flags waved as the entire nation turned out to celebrate a whole week having gone by without a madman opening fire on innocent civilians. Update. Never mind. Rates of domestic violence and homicide are roughly equal across ethnic groups. However, affluent white men are disproportionately represented among the ranks of the most infamous mass murderers. Every killer makes his pain another's problem. But it is only those who have marinated in privilege that can conclude their pain is the entire world's problem. So my second semester of teaching, I have this kid, and he's got all the warning signs. So I have to stay after class and show me what he's been writing, and it's this poem about alienation, and Jesus, it's bleak. So I called the parents. As a young child, Dylan had a remarkable sense of order. No matter what he did, he was driven to succeed. And he was very hard on himself when he lost. We refashion these killers as victims of sorts. So there is no need to talk about race, nor is there any reason to think that Newtown or Aurora or Columbine are becoming Chicago or Detroit. Somehow there is silence. People are running. You walk like a god among them, their mute eyes panicking like deer who have never seen the oncoming call of judgment. Rewind 4 weeks. The parents are not pleased to hear of my concern. It turns out the kid not only writes bleak poems, but he writes prize-winning bleak poems. But he seems so antisocial. So was William Blake. I can't see what's going on inside him. He's a mystery. So was William Shakespeare. I want him to interact with more kids. Those jerks, I want him to be more normal. How dare you say my son's not normal? I caught you once in the backyard killing a squirrel with a rock. Through tears you told me that you loved it. I assumed you meant the squirrel. When your apartment complex was gutted and paved over, I began to obsess over your baby pictures, looking for anything that could predict the way you learned to love seeing things turned inside out. Your brother legally changed his name from Dahmer like James Holmes or Charles Whitman, who killed 16 people at the University of Texas at Austin in 1966. American-born, college-educated white male from a prosperous family, you don't have a sense that any place worth being is off limits to the likes of you. It's why they target public places, university campuses, or movie theaters, or high schools. Fast forward 4 weeks. This is hell. 3 bodies, 6, 7, rewind 8 days. Did I hold your hand too tightly when we crossed the street? Did I teach those fingers to pluck families apart like flower petals? I love you still, darling. Rewind 7 days. The gunshots don't scare you. The satisfaction does. You count the gun shells out loud, the bodies in your head. This is their alarm clock. This is natural selection. This is survival. When Mary, be forsaken as Jesus, had not grown into the man that God intended. I've been forgiven for the sins that I did not commit, but created when you were little. I told you, you can grow up to be anything. James Matoli, 6. Loved doing yard work with his dad. Sang to himself as he fell asleep. Did not survive. Grace Audrey McDonald, 7, dreamed of being a painter when she grew up. Did not survive. Dylan Hockley, 6. Died wrapped in the arms of his teacher's aide. You rewind. The trigger pushes your finger forward. The bullet spirals back into the mouth of its barrel. White Americans are reluctant to think that those all-American kids, kids like our kids, kids like us, could grow up to be mass-murdering monsters living in our midst. Terror can manifest in many forms, and the American majority won't see it coming if we continue to focus only on those who don't look like us.